been a big fan of his since he moved over to Wolfsburg, and even before that on the youth national teams. He's playing now at Darmstadt with Terrence Boyd. Got a lot of playing time in the off season with their with the first team, and looked really well. He seemed to have the coach's eye. Has not really played that much since the season started, but definitely one to keep an eye on if he does break into the first team. That could be another situation where we've got a 19-year-old kid playing minutes with the first team. And then another one I really like is Keaton Parks in Portugal. Definitely an outlier for sure.
Kid too.
Never heard of that guy.
I'm just pandering to you guys. No, I really do like him. He seems to be sort of in the same mold as McKennie. Just a strong physical player, but also really, really technical and knows how to get forward and play the ball in an attacking sense. So definitely one to keep an eye on. I really like him. But yeah, there's a lot of guys throughout Europe, really. Yeah. I mean, it's really incredible in terms of, what, if you look at, we don't really have the numbers put together ourselves, but, if you could look at the number of guys who, under the age of 20 or 18, whatever you want to break it down from, compare it from now to, 10, 15, 20 years ago, it's just incredible how many guys there are over there now.
I would say it's incredible to see how many. It'll be interesting to see how it translates with the national team. And one little point: if Texas were its own nation, they would have a pretty good squad to go to the World Cup. I'd reckon they would be pretty good in CONCACAF. Definitely give Panama and Costa Rica, the U.S. and Mexico some
U.S.
No, Dan, we appreciate it. We got a little shameless plug here on Uncle Sam's Soccer Podcast. Where can we find your content? Where can we find Nats Abroad?
Our main outlet right now is on Twitter. Just at Nats Abroad. We're posting stuff all the time, just about whether it's guys playing, scoring, getting injured, anything like that. Any sort of news that's from Germany to Sweden, anywhere in between, kind of thing. We're keeping track of those guys. So yeah.
Awesome.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. We appreciate it and hope we'll have you back on the show to talk some more Americans abroad.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love it.
Awesome. Thanks again.
Okay, thanks, guys.
We got a little dose of some Americans abroad, Steven.
Nats Abroad.
I follow that Twitter account, so hey, it's a good Twitter account to follow. Good group of guys who follow all the Americans abroad. They all tweet about them too. So it's great to have Dan on our show.
For sure. Hey, what do you think? Texas, they were to secede, man, they'd have a pretty badass national anthem. Stars at Night are big and bright. That'd be the national anthem.
Would people stand or sit for it?
Huh?
Would people stand or sit for it?
That's a good question. But you'd have Kellen Acosta, you'd have Keaton Parks in the middle. I bet you and I could fill out a Dempsey. Dempsey could be leading. He'd be the captain. You would have so many. You'd have a starting 11. I bet you and I could create a Texas starting 11.
Yeah, I'd be manager, head coach, general manager, owner. So
I would say I'm the owner, CEO. You'd be VP.
All right, whatever, Steven, whatever, man. Whatever makes you sleep at night.
Yeah, okay. On a serious note, Texas is, especially North Texas, is a hotbed for youth soccer, and I would recommend going listening to episode 2, where we had Jared Miklas, the academy director of U.S. Soccer, but we also had Fred Kaiser, coach, who actually coached Keaton Parks, on the show to discuss, youth soccer, and we got into a little bit of the hotbed that North Texas is. But moving on.
Definitely go revisit that episode if you want to hear more about the youth.
Yes, if you want to, also give us a follow on Twitter at Uncle Sam Soccer Pod. But moving on to the MLS Playoff formatting, because MLS is discussing a potential change to the playoff format for 2018 and beyond?
Yeah, it sounds interesting for a change, even though. So basically what they want to do, MLS wants to consider, because of the whole FIFA November window, they want to consider only playing single elimination playoffs. That's the gist of the whole thing, to avoid playing before that, or I think before that, after that window, because it kills kind of momentum in the playoffs. I mean, we've seen it. We're excited for the playoffs. There's a 2-week break. Like, what the hell?
No, I think it's the MLS playoffs. It's a problem because it's a two-legged series. Some of them, you have the wild card game, then you have a quick turnaround to the semis, and then the conference finals, and then you have the MLS Cup. The problem is, if you look at it, the team with the higher seed doesn't necessarily always progress because it's not necessarily home field advantage because they're on the road at first. So you know what I'm saying? They could easily, FC Dallas, for example, slip in an 0-3 hole, and then they go home for the second game, and then it's pretty much meaningless. It's almost impossible to come back from. So MLS playoffs, you have that issue. Then you have the issue of that stupid FIFA window that just kills momentum, kills the game. Not even necessarily players' momentum, but just the momentum in the back of your mind. If you're watching the sport, you're like, okay, this is great. Oh, wait, MLS Cup is in 2 weeks, or it resumes in 2 weeks. What? People are going to forget about that. It's not good for the TV markets. And then think about it like this. What if you are Sebastian Giovinco, and so hypothetically you get called up to the Italian national team during that FIFA window? For something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Typically, there's no World Cup qualifying during that window period. It's more friendlies than anything. But what if there's a player that goes up for an important game, or something important, something happens, for the national team, and they get the opportunity to. What if they get hurt? What if the club says no, you can't go? Then their spot, maybe they don't get a second chance to get called up because the window, that FIFA window, is crucial to allowing new and young players to come up and play, a game for the national team to see how they fit in.
No, absolutely. That break is really killer. I would say just kills momentum for any of the playoffs. The playoffs are really fun to watch, actually, but
are they really all that fun? Because some games could be dreadful, and other games are Toronto, Montreal.
I mean, I don't know. I genuinely enjoy watching the playoffs, Steven. I really do. I love watching the wild card matchups because those games, I mean, what was it? The SKC Seattle game last year? I remember we were texting about it.
Fellhaber?
Yeah, the Fellhaber, yeah. What, did he get red carded or something like that?
Yeah, and he was just going crazy.
Yeah, he was going crazy. Like that was, and that's why I love. That's why I love watching the playoffs. Now his proposal is talking about single elimination. I can't vote yes on that if I am someone who was empowered to vote for it. It doesn't make sense economically. Clubs don't like it. From the report, by the way, this is from 442.com by Stam Stedskal.
It's a good read.
It's a good read. And the teams would end up, the smaller teams are mad because that's one less home game for them. For example, if you're a smaller team that doesn't make that much money, you want the extra home game. You don't want, this to be single elimination. Now, single elimination would, I think, put more emphasis on the regular season, which is something I've criticized in the past. I don't like how the playoffs seem to throw out the regular season. The playoffs are playoffs. They're a crapshoot. They're a flip of a coin.
Well, I mean,
at times.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, look at Houston or Dallas. If they squeak into the playoffs and go on to win MLS Cup, were they the best team for 2017? No. So the MLS playoffs is a crapshoot, and it's an entire new season. Okay, so you're forcing these clubs to deal with that, and I don't know, the MLS playoffs, it's just a weird format to begin with. It's not consistent, and you have this one, I guess the play-in game, the wild card, and then it goes on, and then that team's home, and then you have the road game. Yeah, it works, but they need to finalize the system. Let's just play. If we were in charge of MLS, how would you do the playoffs?
It's really, really hard, but what I would do is I would end up doing what the Liga MX does in Mexico. Sorry. what they do is relatively interesting. And even though it's a little bit shorter on the breaks, I do believe it could work. What ends up happening is they play one leg on Wednesday, the other leg on Sunday. So I think that's 3-4 days in between. That's 2 games. That's 2 games in the week. It's relatively fast. They finish their playoffs, the Liguilla, relatively quick compared to what MLS does. And it's a lot. And they start later and they end up at around the same time as MLS. I mean, that's what I would do. I would keep a 2-leg system. I think the single leg system is relatively stupid for something that determines your league's champion in the international perspective.
Okay, fair enough. But how many clubs get into the playoffs?
I would stick with this format because once you get teams 27, 28, it's no longer a majority of teams. It's going to be a much lesser amount of teams. I would keep it because that's what they're put in for. These 2 spots, the 5-6 on each side, were put in so that you don't have to go through some painful transition. The transition right now would be seamless if they went to 28 right now, to be honest.
You know what okay, so I have one realistic scenario, then I have my stupid mind that this the winner of the Supporter Shield automatically goes to the MLS Cup, right? Then you play the playoffs, you have a home and away system, it's relatively quick turnaround. The winner of that small tournament plays the winner of the Supporter Shield for the MLS Cup.
Is that you're serious or you're joking?
That's my joke in mind.
Oh, okay, good.
But I think that would be really interesting to see.
It'd be fun.
My realistic mind goes to actually cutting the playoffs back. Yeah, you're going to lose money. I think it's just better for you put more emphasis on the regular season. You do the top 4 from each conference that play, right? And then after that, you do what you do is the Champions League draw. The first round, you cannot have inter-conference play. You line them up. Bing. Doesn't matter about seeding. Nothing. That's it. The only reason with the way the seeding works would be is if you are the higher seed going into the playoff format, the drawing, you get to choose if you're if you are at home or away first. You make your decision then and there. So if you're Toronto, you say you draw Sporting KC. Since you're the higher seed, you get to choose if you're home or away. And then after that, it's just you move on like the Champions League. It's a drawing. It doesn't matter. You could have 2 Western Conference teams play in the playoffs. I think.
So you're saying scrap the conference system in general.
No, the conference system. The conference system is designed to
limit travel.
Limit travel. You have to. It's just realistically stupid to have clubs travel across the country all the time. You have to have the conferences to break up the scheduling to make it a little bit more. And with so much travel, you don't develop rivals. You have to have the regularity of seeing the same clubs over and over. But then with the drawing with the Champions League, it's an occasion. You get to see who's my club drawing. And if you're a higher squad, then you get to play the game. Should we be on the road first? Should we be on the should we host the game first? So,
my only issue with that is if you're a top side, like let's say Toronto, and you get matched up with another top side, like the other top side in the West, how is that fair? How is that relatively fair? I mean, even if you choose the home, like I don't think that's fair. I think it would be a disadvantage almost.
What it would mean is you're just trying to get to this tournament.
If you're gonna do this split up, what I would do is I would set up 4 pots. Pot 1, top 1, pot 2, top 2, pot 3.
So you
pot
would
4 like that.
Yeah, no, you would do what FIFA does when it comes to the World Cup. You have the higher ranking teams in one pot, and it splits up. So especially in the first round, I think after the first round,
1 can't play 1, 2 can't play 2, 3 can't play 3, 4 can't play 4.
Yeah. But 4 could play 3, 4 could play 2, 4 could play 1. You know what I'm saying? So you mix it up. But you get creative with it. I think it would be really good for the sport. You'd have that Champions League air where, the drawing is such an occasion. How many people are glued to the TV. But that's my I think, realistic idea where MLS should be going for it. But with expansion and all that, keep it as is. And we'll see where it goes. You just got to get rid of that FIFA window. But listeners, follow us on Twitter at UncSamSoccerPod. Don't forget to subscribe, comment, and share. We had fantastic guests on the show. We'll be back.